morning, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Alex, and today I'm going to talk to you about a subject that is part of a bigger subject, which is gross domestic product per capita index. And the bigger subject, of course, is human geography. I'm going to talk to you about how it is not a good tool, not always a good tool, that estimates the standards of living of a country. Now, first of all, what is gross domestic product, GDP? It is the value of the total economic output of a country in a single year. I'm talking about all the production of goods, all the export, all the military expenditure, and all of this, all the export, all of this takes the form of a figure that is gross domestic product. Now, gross domestic product per capita is the same figure, just divided by the number of citizens. Okay? Now, each year, three major organizations, the World Bank, the CIA, and the International Monetary Fund, publish the GDP per capita index that ranks countries depending on their GDP per capita. Now, there are not many differences between the three versions, but all around the world, people use this index in order to evaluate, to estimate the standards of living, the quality of life in a country. Now, the real quality of life index and standards of living index is called HDI, Human Development Index, that is published by the United Nations each year, and it takes into account factors like literacy, economic prosperity, health, education, the quality of English teachers, and so on.
I heard that.
Now, no, it is very logical to think, and this is what usually happens, is that the higher a country is on the GDP per capita index, it will be higher on the HDI index. But in fact, it's not always the case. For example, Israel and South Korea. Now, Israel's GDP per capita is $26,800, while South Korea's is only $17,100. These are the latest figures, by the way. It means that Israel is richer than South Korea. Why? Because Israel's economy is a developed one, already a developed one, while South Korea's is an emerging economy, and it just started to rise in the mid-70s. Okay. Now, where are they on the quality of life index, the HDI? Israel is number 15 and South Korea is number 12. It means that Israel has a better quality of life. It means that South Korea has a better quality of life than Israel. Why? Because South Korea's education system is world-renowned, its public transportation is very famous, it doesn't have the same security problems as Israel has, it doesn't have the same corruption as Israel. Okay? And the fact that Israelis have a mandatory service, it lowers the quality of life of its citizens. Okay, now, another example is Israel and Qatar. Okay, Qatar's per capita is 4 times that of Israel. Okay, and twice as much as the United States, because it's an oil-rich economy, and it succeeded in the last decade to diversify its economy. And Israel, even with the latest discoveries offshore of Haifa, will never have the same reservoirs of oil as Qatar has. But where are they on the HDI? Israel is number 15 and Qatar is at number 38. Okay, it means that Israel has by far much better quality of life than Qatar. Why? Because Qatar is not a democracy. And it has a problem with its gender inequality, problem with its human rights. Okay, if I want to organize a gay parade in Qatar, in Doha, the capital of Qatar, I can do it in prison. And of course, there's a problem with freedom of speech, problem with freedom of press, unlike Israel. And this is why Israel has a better quality of life. So in conclusion, yes, you may use most of the time the GDP per capita index in order to evaluate, to estimate the standards of living in a country, but if you want to be accurate, you should use the HDI. And finally, you should move to Liechtenstein, which has the highest GDP per capita index, the highest GDP per capita in the world, actually. And it's on the 6th place on HDI.